Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our discussion series about the Afterlives animated shorts. Here we are at what I believe is supposed to be the final one, though some people do speculate if they are going to secretly release an extra one, perhaps focused on the mall, perhaps giving us a little bit more insight into the jailer. I think that would be interesting. I think it would also be a little helpful as well. I feel like a lot of players are feeling a little disconnected from this, partly because of the jailer, and it's partly because of the idea of this is a brand new character that we've never met or encountered or heard of before, and he's going to be pushed as the next big bad of this expansion. And we really don't know him. We don't know him as a character. And it just feels like even if we take him down, are we even going to have any sort of like connection to it? Are we going to feel anything compared to in the past if we had taken down a different villain, like say, I don't know, the Lich King, or I was going to list off someone else. However, he's actually shown in this. I will be discussing that in just a bit when we get there. Okay? Don't worry. So anyways, yes, this is supposedly the final episode of, focused on Revendreth, which many people have said they will proudly join simply because it's vampires. Now, forgive me, I'm one of those who actually does not share the over-the-top, over-the-heels love of vampires like many others do. I've always been more of a werewolf guy, hence my, me liking the Worgen right off the bat. I've just always preferred werewolves compared to vampires. Sometimes they do vampires in a way that I just don't really like. Sometimes they do them in a way I do like. We've seen various different iterations, and other people will have debates on what they consider to be fake vampires and real vampires. The little accent, I hope, gave you an idea of what I was referring to, though I doubt how many of you are actually going to get that. Yeah, anyways. This is only 3 minutes and 56 seconds, so it's, I guess, around the same length as the Maldraxxus one was. The face on the cover is the guy who is being shown as the main leader of this zone, Sire Denathrius. Now, I'll actually save my point in just a moment. For now, why do you say we actually get started here by hearing the yelling, cries, screaming of an old acquaintance of ours. Pleasant visual there, isn't it? I imagine that is quite painful. And you probably already recognize who that might be simply based on his yelling. I mean, if you've seen the patch trailer of Siege of Orgrimmar from Mists of Pandaria, you probably recognize which orc this is. But we'll get a more clear shot of him in just a bit. For now, let us meet Sire Denathrius.
To the good people of Revendreth. It is with optimism that I address you today. Though these are challenging times.
So, immediately, we get something that I was actually expecting from this, because this is something they've actually promoted and talked about in regards to this zone, going back to BlizzCon from last year. And that is that there is a very high aristocratic society of vampires in charge of this zone throughout. Yes, the aristocracy. It's such a great, the orchestral music, yes. You see the carriage with the horses. You see that Sire Denathrius here has his own servant writing down with a quill on a piece of parchment his speech that he will be sending out to all of his faithful, loyal subjects, to the good people of Revendreth. Oh my goodness. That's basically this entire short, is us listening to Denathrius, address his loyal subjects.
Firstly, I assure you that our holy mission to help the most violent and wicked souls atone for their sins is and always will be our utmost priority. Our rituals are effective. Our judgment keen, but
they look like they are enjoying their job, don't they? Don't mind us, we love our job. But right away we get reminded that that is what this zone is about. So, we have seen some of the other zones, what they're basically like, what their task is. Here, this is where the worst come to be tortured in order to be given the opportunity, the chance to atone for their horrible sins that they committed in life. Just to reiterate this, and no, this is not a spoiler as far as I'm concerned, because they announced it at BlizzCon. Just a reminder, this is where Kael'thas is. Yeah. So after the events of the Burning Crusade, this is where Kael'thas was sent. Because of the things he did, especially towards the end of Burning Crusade, assisting kill Jaden, to atone for his sins. Yeah.
we Venthyr remain committed to bringing eventual redemption to all who desire it. It is through your faithful work that even the most evil and prideful beings may ultimately be spared an eternity in the maw.
I want to point that out. I want to emphasize what he just said, because that actually goes back to what we saw in the Bastion short. What happened in the Bastion short is extremely telling, because this is actually where Arthas was supposed to go. Even though I don't think Arthas himself, the real Arthas, deserved to go here, but that's a whole separate discussion. The point is that if things had been going normally, Arthas would have actually been sent here because of the things he did as Death Knight Arthas and the Lich King to atone for his sins, to be spared an eternity in the maw. However, because of what Devos and Uther did, they bypassed Revendreth and just simply sent him into the maw. But this is where Arthas was apparently supposed to go. I just want to point that out, because that's what Devos and Uther ultimately did. They bypassed the actual judgment to just simply get him in the maw. But the fact that this is a place where, as he said, the most evil and prideful of beings have a chance to be spared an eternity in the maw, and their eventual redemption. I like how he says that, oh, no matter what, they will all eventually be redeemed. There are certain individuals I'm not sure deserve that, but whatever. Sure. Fine. Anyways.
Unfortunately, of late, the flow of such hubris-ridden souls has virtually ceased.
So, I need to address that because I actually messed up when I was trying to tell you guys about what's going on in the previous videos in regards to the drought, especially in Ardenweald. The reason the drought is happening of anima is because at a certain point, involving Sylvanas and the Jailer, every soul that has died after a certain point, going back towards, like, we believe some point during Legion. Some are still kind of debating when exactly that happened timeline-wise. But at some point around there, the Arbiter, judging souls to determine where they go, that stopped. And every single soul that has died since then, including throughout all of Battle for Azeroth, has gone straight to the Maw. And because they've gone straight to the Maw, the anima for the other zones, all 4 of the zones here in the Shadowlands, has been dropping. This is why the drought of anima was happening in Ardenweald, because they were supposed to get more anima from the souls that are judged to be sent to Ardenweald, but no more are going to Ardenweald because they're all going to the Maw. Same with the other zones. That's what's going on here. And that's part of the reason why we are going there, or rather part of what we're going to be doing when we go there, is to help stop every single soul that dies in Azeroth to go straight to the Maw, and have them be able to be properly judged as they were by the Arbiter, and such they can be properly determined and judged which zone they're supposed to go to. Like, which one should go to Bastion, which one should go to Ardenweald, and so on. So that's something I wanted to emphasize because I realized I messed up explaining that last time.
And as a result, anima, our most precious resource, is in dwindling supply. Even we, the faithful who extract the anima, have not been spared the effects of this mysterious drought.
I do want to point out something here. I want you to point out, or I want you to notice how Denathrius is talking about this. First off, doesn't he come across as the very smug aristocrat, kind of talking down to you? But I also like how he's like, oh, this mysterious drought. Yeah, kind of making it a little on the nose that he clearly knows what's going on. He's playing up that it's a mystery to his subjects while he actually knows what's really going on. But that partly has to do, I think, with what we're going to be doing in Revendreth, so I'm not going to speak too much about that. So,
Yes, we still have our old reliables. Our work.
Recognize that face? So I'm sorry I cut off Denathrius there, saying our workhorses, because, yes, that is Garrosh. This is where Garrosh ended up after Thrall killed him in Draenor, which, by the way, that actually confirms something that we wondered about, is whether or not the Shadowlands is only to our Azeroth, or if it has the whole alternate dimension thing, like alternate Draenor from Warlords. This now confirms that even if you died in alternate Draenor, you still went to these Shadowlands. Which, the whole Shadowlands involving other dimensions thing, but hey, apparently we're also going to be encountering being some other planets in the Shadowlands, so, okay, sure. But forgive me, I love that Garrosh came here, because as far as I'm concerned, he deserves it. In fact, watch what they're doing to him. He mentioned, oh, we still have our old reliables, our workhorses, in regards to anima.
Courses?
Yeah. They are constantly, in a form, torturing Garrosh by constantly extracting anima out of him. He's basically a battery. They have turned Garrosh into a battery to extract anima from to keep them going during a drought. Forgive me, but I just find that fate very... I don't know, I like the fact that this is something that has happened to Garrosh, that this is his fate, because it serves him right. He deserves this kind of fate, as far as I'm concerned. After some of the times where he would torture others, now you get to know what it's like to be tortured yourself, Garrosh. Do you guys know there was a line that he has where he actually said he wished he had committed even more atrocities? He committed atrocities. He wished he'd done even more. Yeah, people talk about, Arthas deserving to be here. No. Garrosh deserves to be here. Forgive me, I have made it very clear I'm firmly in the camp that defends Arthas and what he did, and that he doesn't deserve to have that kind of fate because of the circumstances involving his soul being removed and Death Knight Arthas being in control and all that. Garrosh was not, did not have his soul removed, was taken over by a separate being. He wasn't corrupted by the heart of Y'Shaarj. Garrosh did everything all on his own. No, Garrosh does no. If anyone asks me, do I think Garrosh deserves a redemption? No! Just like I don't think Sylvanas deserves redemption. They deserve to be here, and this absolutely, they have earned this fate. Garrosh earned this. So, good riddance. And if it was like, if there's a quest where we can go rescue him, I don't want to have to do that. I don't want to have to save Garrosh. I want to leave him in here to rot. Let him stay here as an anima battery for all I care.
Yet I fear they will not be enough. We are doing everything in our power to gather more anima. But, simply put, we must all, rich and poor alike, make sacrifices for the greater good. Therefore, I have decided to implement a strategy of conservation and rationing, which should...
The aristocrats! Because, of course, the higher-ups, the aristocracy, this wine is delectable. Of course, they are the ones who now get all the anima, while the poor and the peasants, yes, the peasants of Revendreth, they don't get anything. Yeah, that's how things are being run now in Revendreth.
To keep the anima flowing to those most in need.
Ah, yes, those most in need. Ha, ha, ha. Yeah, you can now see the hypocrisy within this statement to his loyal and faithful subjects. Speaking of his subjects...
In this manner, we will keep our people strong and our land healthy. Despite the efforts of those who would use this crisis to further their own ends and rebel against the rightful structures of our society. Rest assured, we shall bring these miscreants.
I find myself wondering where this is, and why this is set up this way, and what exactly is that's shining through the clouds there. Do they have a sun in the Shadowlands? Like, what exactly is this, and how exactly is this set up, and how exactly does this work in regards to, like, is there a sun just, over Revendreth that they can be able to use as... Well, you're about to see what they're about to do to this peasant who dared to take some anima to feed his family and was then caught by a guard. And, well, Denathrius decided to give him this. Now, again, this is... You can see how they're directing this, where we are seeing the true side of Denathrius and how he truly is, compared to the statement that he is releasing to his public, where he's saying, "Rest assured, we shall bring these miscreants to justice." While we see that this poor individual was simply trying to feed his family, I assume it was his family, and instead has this done to him.
To justice. With fairness and mercy, of course.
Oh, yes, indeed.
After all, nothing if not compassionate. My loyal subjects, we are doing all that can be done to stimulate anima production and fulfill Revendreth's honorable purpose.
I like how the guy writing this just looked at that being poured into the goblet and just kind of... He looked at it like he was thirsty for it, and he was just kind of upset about the situation. That he knows what's going on, and he hates it. But yes, we see that he gets it poured as... Ah, yes, it smells wonderful. I have this lovely anima to sip all on my own. Yes, yes.
Remain devout and resolute. And know that I will lead us all into a brighter future.
So, yeah, the obvious vampire thing of they get, put into the sunlight. I assume it's the sun because, again, I'm wondering, is there actually like a sun up there? Like, I'm a little confused in terms of the, like, how exactly this is set up and work. But yeah, it's the obvious. This is a separate area they keep specifically for this, to send someone out to die under sunlight, because of course they're vampires, and of course the sun, kills them, where now he is either being turned to stone or he is being burned to ash. Like, you can see it in his eyes. His eyes went from normal color to just white, and he is basically just, being burnt to a crisp. And yes, of course, the brighter future. Get it? Lol. Ah, yes, and of course we have to finish with the orchestral music and the violins, yes, because of course, that is what we love here in Revendreth. A lovely orchestra with proper Oh my gosh. This is exactly what I was picturing when they were talking about this zone and what the Revendreth people were like. And especially when they were talking about, hey, guess what? If you side with Revendreth, you can actually throw your own parties. And I was just like, oh my gosh, they are really playing out this whole, vampires are very, aristocrats. And yes, yes, yes. Very smug. Yeah, I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'll make a confession to you guys. Revendreth was actually, while other people were just going gaga over this zone and just freaking out because vampires, Meanwhile, I'm like, and I'm like, oh, Maldraxxus, Scourge, That was what got me excited, not vampires, but that's just me. I'm just not as much of a fan of vampires as other people are. But I'm just not. My interest in this zone is not all that much. Like, right now, based off of these, I'm very interested in Bastion because I want to know what's going on with the Archon and the way the Kyrians work, their path with Uther and Devos. In Maldraxxus, I want to know what's going on with the 5 houses and the politics are going on there with Draka and a couple of other characters I've heard of there, and try to figure out, what's going on there and try to, solve that and figure that out. In Ardenweald, I want to, save some of the other souls so that we don't have someone else die like Ursoc did, and try to see if I can help the Winter Queen fix this. Revendreth, I'm like, okay, clearly Sire Denathrius is one of the villains here. And we're going to have to go there and stop him. In fact, it's hard for me to consider this a spoiler because they've been so upfront with it when they announce raid content. Whenever they announce dungeon and raid content, they're usually very upfront about who the bosses are. So if you're told about it ahead of time, you kind of lose the surprise of encountering them and going, oh my gosh, But I'm sure it's going to be made very clear when we go through Revendreth, but I'm just going to go ahead and give it away right now because, well, it's hard for me to consider it a spoiler. Denathrius is the final boss of the first raid of this expansion. Now, I've actually heard he's actually a pretty good boss fight. I've actually heard some people compare him to Blackhand in Blackrock Foundry back in Warlords, which what many consider to be an awesome raid boss fight and one of the best raid boss fights they've ever had in this game. I've heard some people talk extremely highly of it, especially the Mythic Blackhand fight, which was not only really well designed and done, but one of the harder boss fights ever. That's, from what I've heard from others. So I've heard some of the people who have been testing out this raid in the beta and the alpha that Denathrius is a really good boss fight, very similar to Blackhand. So I'm looking forward to trying that out. I've heard some other different things about some of the other bosses, but I always try to see who the bosses are in terms of like who's the first boss and who's the final boss. To me, the final boss should be someone notable. Sometimes the first boss can be notable, but not really. Like, for example, in Icecrown Citadel, Marrowgar is the first boss. Not a big deal. He's very well remembered because of Bone Storm. But Denathrius, or not Denathrius, the Lich King is the final boss of the Ice Crown Citadel because, of course, he is. To me, the final boss matters more than the first boss, which is why I keep arguing that Kargath should have been the last boss of High Mall instead of the ogre. I don't even remember his name. But anyways, you guys get my point. It's very obvious and telegraphed here that Denathrius is one of the main villains of this expansion, at least when we're going through the first 4 zones. And the questing Revendreth is more than likely going to give us the idea of what's going on there. Perhaps a rebellion force to try and overthrow this aristocracy run by Denathrius and the higher-ups who are keeping all the anima to themselves. The rich get all the anima, and the poor peasants of Revendreth get nothing. And we're going to go there to try and help stop it and fix that. That's how it's being portrayed here in this short. And that's what I am expecting once I get there to do the questing. So, sure. I'm of course interested in what's going on with Kael'thas and what's going on with Garrosh. Though honestly, I'd prefer Garrosh just stay there. Kael'thas, I'm hopeful that this is the opportunity that the devs have been waiting for to try and fix what they did to Kael'thas in Burning Crusade. For those of you who do not know, Kael'thas was not supposed to be as horrible of a person or character as he was in Burning Crusade. The reason that they did what they did with Kael'thas in Burning Crusade was because they so badly messed up writing Illidan's character for Burning Crusade, they had to come up with something to try to make it make a little bit more sense. So they decided, okay, let's ruin Kael'thas' character by having him get so desperate that he went to kill Jaden to betray Illidan behind his back and eventually join the Burning Legion and say, the world will burn. No. Many, including myself, can think they ruined Kael'thas' character in Burning Crusade because that's not the Kael'thas I remember from Warcraft 3. If you want to know what I'm referring to, head on over to my playthroughs of Warcraft 3 and Warcraft 3 Reforged if you want a reminder of what Kael'thas was actually like back then. I'm very hopeful that Quentin Flynn, there we go, Quentin Flynn returns to voice Kael'thas because I love Quentin Flynn. He's awesome. I loved him as Raiden in Metal Gear, and I love him as Kael'thas. He's great. So I'm hoping they take this opportunity to fix Kael'thas, like how they fixed Illidan in Legion, because I hated what they did with him in Burning Crusade. But in Legion, I love what they did with them, and I hope they do give Kael'thas the same kind of treatment. I really hope so. Garrosh, let him rot in there and be a battery for all I care. Or screw Garrosh. Oh man. Hashtag he was never my war chief. Or, not my war chief. Never was. Anyways. So, yeah, that is the Revendreth short. Probably my least favorite of the 4, honestly. I actually like the Maldraxxus one more than this because I found the idea of the house is more interesting. I thought what was going on with Draka and the house that she served, getting an ambush and her having to go to the other house, interesting. This one, it's just... okay, Garrosh is there, and Denathrius is, evil. Greedy and, an aristocrat. Maybe that's probably the most insulting thing I can throw at him. He's an aristocrat. I'm sure that's all I have to say about him. But so are many of the others, you can clearly tell, who are like, yes, they're holding goblets of anima, like they're holding goblets, glasses of wine. Like, oh, yes, very smug. Yeah, so... anyways, I don't know if they're actually going to release another. It would be cool if they did. If they secretly just release one on the Maw, and it gives us more info on the Jailer and Sylvanas, I think that would be cool. I really would love it if they did that. They don't advertise it or anything. It's just a surprise release. Just here. By the way, check this out, and they just release it without telling anybody. That would be awesome. I would love that. Fingers crossed. Otherwise, well, probably the next thing, next time we delve into anything Shadowlands related will probably be when the pre-patch comes out, which I did see some patch data get uploaded in the background for WoW, so I think it's literally right around the corner. It possibly could be even this upcoming Tuesday. Fingers crossed. So, I will see you guys either in another short or in the Shadowlands, or at least the pre-patch of the Shadowlands, next time.